Palestinians in northern Gaza Strip town of Beis Lahia gathered for a mass fast-breaking iftar meal amid the rubble of destroyed buildings as the ravaged territory spends its second Islamic holy month of Ramadan amidst the war.
We came here to demonstrate to the occupation that we will stay resolute and steadfast. No matter what happens, we will stay connected to our heritage, and we will stay connected to our ancestors' glories.
استمعنا في هذه اللمة اللهونية الأسرة الواحدة بالرغم من الدمار وبالرغم من المعاناة الشديدة كنا نصنع لقمة بسيطة في بيوتنا وأن نجتمع على حب وترابط هذه البلدة بلدة بيت لاهيا.
Well, there's so much to talk about on the very delicate and gridlock situation, if you like, on the Gaza-Israel talks. Dr. Marek Laskiewicz joins us from London. Good to have you again today, Laskiewicz. Hamas is obviously not giving up on Gaza. The proposal from the Arab nations is that a new independent Palestinian police should take over Gaza.
Yes, there is a proposal by the Arab leaders that instead of Hamas, whom Israel refuses to accept, and indeed President Donald Trump as well, should no longer be rulers and somebody else should be, and they've made a proposal. Unfortunately, the Americans and Israelis are totally unenthusiastic about any part of this Arab plan, and that therefore, as things stand, Hamas remain in charge, and they're still in charge of the Strip and of the negotiations.
While the reconstruction of Gaza is at the center of all of this, with the Arabs planning to go on, which contradicts U.S. plans, how does either side's decision impact the entire process?
The central problem is to do with the second phase of the ceasefire agreement. President Donald Trump and and also Netanyahu of Israel do not want really the second phase to go ahead. What they want is an extension of the first phase, all the hostages to be returned, albeit with more Palestinians released. And then there would be a very difficult moment because the right-wingers in the Israeli cabinet want the war to continue, for Hamas to be destroyed. Hamas, for its part, does not. Not apart from not wanting to be destroyed, it wants the second phase to go forwards. And that therefore, we are now at an impasse, a very difficult impasse, because Hamas really is playing chicken and hoping that the Israeli and the Americans won't start the war again, because they really have no way of fighting back.
Israel may decide to deploy force if Hamas stalls, if they decide to halt this or stall all of the process. Besides, blocking aid entry into Gaza because of Hamas's actions, Israel might decide to use force. How would that pan out then?
The central problem if Israel uses force, as far as Hamas is concerned and the Gazans, is that no one can stop them. The Israeli IDF is frankly impossible to be halted. At the same time, there is one other aspect to this. The IDF cannot and will not destroy the Hamas movement for a very simple reason. It's more of an idea. Even if they were to kill every single Hamas member that existed right now, more might well come forward. At the end of the day, what Hamas is really saying is that they want to be independent. They want to be a recognized state in the world. And this idea of freedom is very difficult to extinguish, as over 6,000 years many rulers have found. So what is likely to happen is this. As things stand, there is this threat that Israel can return. Unless Donald Trump's plan of expelling the Gazans is put forward, Hamas will in some way remain. However, there is some good news. First of all, they are still talking. This cannot be overemphasized. Secondly, it is entirely possible that were the Israelis and the Americans to make a proposal which would bring about the second stage, that Hamas might, for its part, be agreeable to letting go of power. So it's not all gloom and doom, but as we stand, it's not very hopeful either.
Now, the Arab nations also, Dr. Marek, have to get Hamas to agree to release the remaining hostages as soon as possible, so the situation does not escalate beyond where it is now.
Well, the answer is yes and no, because the Arab nations' goal, of course, as far as one can tell, apart from rebuilding the Gaza Strip, is this two-state solution. Now, if they were to pressurize Hamas into giving up all the hostages, then the bargaining chip, if one can put it that way, of the hostages would disappear. And it's by no means clear Israel and America would carry on to a second stage. There would be absolutely no need for them to do so, as they hold the whip hand in military terms. So therefore, the Arab nations are well aware of this. They are really, as far as I can tell, not pressurizing Hamas into necessarily giving up all the hostages, but simply making some leeway so that more talks can continue. What Hamas is doing at present is simply saying no to everything. And it's this that the Arab nations are working on. But I do not believe they're working to actually make all the hostages be released as soon as possible.
Also, Dr. Marek, Trump said on social media that he's given Hamas a chance. What does that mean? Are we about to see another side to Trump? And what is the next move by the U.S.? Is it going to hand over more weapons to Israel to attack?
Yes, a good question. He's giving Hamas a chance, but a chance to do what? The implication there is that he's giving them a chance to hand over all the hostages. But as I've just mentioned a second ago, that's to hand over the sole negotiating Trump card. So this is unlikely to actually happen. Supplying more arms to Israel? Well, to be honest, they've supplied arms before and doubtless will supply arms again. So this is not the key point. The key point rather is, what is he prepared to let Netanyahu do? Is he prepared to give Netanyahu the green light to expel the Gazans? That is the key question. Is he prepared to give Netanyahu the green light to attack Gazans again, missile them and so on? Again, it's unclear. What is clear is that for the time being, and probably for these holy times, such as Ramadan and Passover, nothing will happen. And hopefully this will give time for the moderators, the Arab nations, to come up with some sort of compromise whereby Israel and Gaza could carry on talking and work at least something out. Although the two-state solution is unacceptable to Israel, equally, expelling all the Gazans is unlikely to occur. So hopefully the mutual recognition of these impossibilities will result in at least some sort of compromise proposal. After all, for many years now, Gaza and Israel have lived with this compromise of neither being a two-state solution nor being attacked in any way by Israel. Let us hope something like that might again emerge.
Let me understand this. The first phase of the deal involves the release of hostages by both sides. That's Israel and Hamas. The U.S. have asked for an extension of the first phase until mid-April. Israel agrees to it. Hamas says no. Who is violating that rule? That's one. Plus, how can phase 2 begin when phase 1 isn't complete?
Well, actually, phase 1 is complete in the sense some of the hostages were to be released by the Palestinians, and some of the prisoners held by Israel, including under this so-called administrative detention, were to be released. And in terms of numbers, that phase 1 was finished. So Hamas is simply saying they agreed phase 1 and phase 2 is implicit in this agreement. And what Israel is saying, no, we want simply the hostage issue to be dealt with. In this sense, Hamas, although it is correct in saying the phase 2 should go ahead, unfortunately, as President Donald Trump says, there are no actual condition to enforce this, and therefore some leeway, some sort of negotiation should take place. This is the key point. It is rather that they do not wish to bring out a new extension to phase 1 because the phase 1, as agreed, has finished.
Here's the thing. Israel, Netanyahu in the news have said they have about 23 hostages still in Gaza. And the same as Israel still having some hostages, that's Palestinian hostages. Shouldn't we see all of the hostages exchanged first before we move to pulling a military base from Gaza, as to what Netanyahu is saying?
First and foremost, the actual number of hostages held by the Palestinians, including those already dead, is somewhat higher, but no, not that much higher. As for the Israelis, they hold many thousands of Palestinians, either as arrested for offences or in administrative detention. And the IDF has also got several prisoners, quite a few of them. So the numbers are quite disparate between the two. But the key problem for Hamas is, if they were indeed to hand over all the hostages, what bargaining material do they have left? Essentially, what they're saying is, unless we get some sort of a deal with Israel that it stops attacking us, we're not going to release the hostages. And therefore, I honestly doubt that Hamas will release them entirely, though owing to the mediators' efforts, at least some might be released, which would be a good sign because the two sides, at least they will carry on talking. But there is no way that Israel is going to release the many thousands it has of prisoners and detainees, and there's no way that Hamas is going to release all its living and dead hostages.
Before I let you go, real quickly, the Arabs have proposed for UN personnel to be stationed in Gaza while an independent Palestinian police force is being formed. How would this work with Hamas on the ground in Gaza?
The key point is Hamas prepared to relinquish power if there are enough guarantees that the Gazans can carry on living there? This is one key question. And the implication for everything that's said is that Hamas might well be prepared to consider this. But simultaneously, the problem is Israel prepared to let the Gazans carry on living there when there is the possibility of either expelling them or at the very least having an authority there which Israel has to agree with as it sees. And there are these two unknowns which are very important. But there is an implication that both sides to some degree might agree, and this is undoubtedly one way forward for the negotiations.
Rise. International Affairs analyst there, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Thank you so much for making time to join us.